The royal families of the Middle East are known for their horrible love stories, especially the one which led to the death of a foreign bride, Candace Cohen, on August 16, 2012, when she was discovered dead after falling from the fourth story of a Parisian building. But even in a never-ending desert, you'll surely find an oasis. Not too long ago, Sheikh Rashid bin Ahmed Al Maktoum, the nephew of UAE's vice president, prime minister, and ruler of Dubai, was diagnosed with leukemia. Doctors doubted he'd even get to live up to 3 months. However, Rashid's English wife, Natalie Lancaster, did something extraordinary, which suddenly cured Rashid of his cancer. But they never knew something far more dangerous was waiting for him ahead. What happened to him? How did his wife manage to save him? How do they live now? To find out, stay tuned to the end of this video. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. Rashid is a professional show jumper, and his love for horses began at the tender age of 13 during a summer in France when he saw a gray mare that was acting crazy. But for some reason, Rashid was attracted to her. His sister Latifa spontaneously came up with a ridiculous idea which she thought of as a joke, but never knew Rashid would take it seriously. She told him to try and jump on the horse, something he had never done in his entire life. She was surprised when Rashid took up the challenge and hopped on the horse. He began to ride towards the jump, and as he got near, his sister began to yell for him to stop. But he took the jump, and that was it. He got hooked. He immediately felt the adrenaline rush of the moment, and he instantly took show jumping as a profession. In 2010, a stroke of luck got him an entry into the Asian Games. He was competing in Europe at the time, and 2 days before the horses were due to quarantine in Aachen, Germany, he was asked by the UAE Equestrian and Racing Federation, including his sister Latifa, if he'd like to go. He immediately said yes, and within 48 hours, they were on their way. Together with his horse, they completed a clear round and helped the team win silver. Rashid's first encounter with his wife was only destined by fate. The English woman was born in Shropshire and attended boarding school from the age of 7. Her grandmother was a dressage, and her guidance was what pulled Natalie into dressage too. She even rode a pony to school every day. After completing her education, she relocated to Dubai in 2010 to be closer to her father, who was working there. At the time, she worked for a lighting design company before starting her own online retail pet shop, which she ran for 6 years. But she eventually began to miss her love for horses, and she decided it was time to get back to the horsey scene. Fortunately, she saw an advertisement for a horse, and she tried him. The feeling made her wish she never stopped dressage in the first place. But little did she know the decision she made to return to horses was the one thing that would change the course of her life forever. A few years later, Rashid met his future wife Lancaster through a mutual friend at the Dubai Polo and Equestrian Club. Shortly after, Lancaster moved, and the two hit it off. In 2015, they got married, and after a year, they both welcomed their first daughter, Sheikh Hessa in 2016, named after Rashid's mother. 3 years later, they welcomed their second daughter, Sheikh Alia, in 2019. But not long after Alia's birth, the family was struck with tragedy when Rashid was diagnosed with leukemia on the 6th of November that same year. After feeling weak for about 10 days, Rashid assumed it was the typical tiredness associated with being a father to 2 young daughters, Hessa and Alia, who at the time were aged just 2 and 9 months respectively. Sheikh Rashid took a blood test and was informed that 86% of his blood had leukemia, and that the typical life expectancy for a case such as his was just 3 months. After being told he must go to the UK immediately for treatment, he resisted, saying he couldn't just up and go, leaving his kids who were in school, his family, and his horses behind. And so he made up his mind that in less than 3 months, he was going to die, and he wouldn't want to be anywhere else but with his family. Lancaster saw how her husband's despair and frustration were taking a toll on the entire family. She couldn't eat, let alone breastfeed her newborn baby. Rashid was the one diagnosed, but they were all equally sharing in his pain. But she was filled with hope, and she believed that with the right support and adequate care, Rashid would be back to his usual self. She started doing research on people who successfully beat leukemia, and she was pleased with the results she got. She quickly rushed to her husband with the testimonies of these individuals, but he was still nonchalant. She convinced him to do it, if not for himself, but for her, and the sake of their 2 beautiful daughters, who he'd be leaving behind without a father. Her words got to him, and he finally agreed to start the treatment. Assisted by his uncle, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, he flew to the UK and underwent a robust course of chemotherapy. He went from weighing 77 kilograms to 47 kilograms. I lost my hair, eyebrows, beard, everything. I lost my identity, but I was more worried about my wife and daughters, rather than myself. I wanted to get better for them. Lancaster seemed to be the most worried because a lot was running through her mind. I was being pulled in different directions. I was having to split myself between Rashid, who obviously needed me immensely, and the girls. I was completely spinning. I couldn't find myself at all. I didn't know if I was going to get a phone call in the morning that he hadn't woken up or the treatment was unsuccessful, she said. But 40 days after his diagnosis, a miracle happened. Rashid was clear of leukemia. His family were so excited that he finally beat what he thought would take him away from them. Lancaster was praised for a stubborn spirit in nudging Rashid to go for chemo. Their joyous jubilation quickly came to an end when a new enemy then presented itself: depression. Rashid was getting depressed during his chemo, but he didn't know why. His depression got to the point where it became even worse than his leukemia. I didn't know that chemo drugs contained a depressant. I was in bed for 23.5 hours a day. I went downhill. And for almost 2 years, I wanted nothing to do with my horses. It felt like I was tired, but I was depressed. He was getting weaker and also wouldn't let the doctor see him. And he always kept the lights in his room off all the time. Lancaster knew this was just going to be like the last time, and only she could rescue her life from his apathy towards life again. So she set a plan in motion. Within 3 months, the family returned to Dubai, and Lancaster got in touch with a psychiatrist who put Rashid on a high dose of antidepressants for a while. Meanwhile, Lancaster began writing again, swiftly regaining stability in her life. But she constantly forced her husband to come with her. Rashid's deep-rooted love for equestrian sports played a crucial role in his recovery, thanks in part to Lancaster's shrewd planning. This outcome was nothing short of miraculous. The first miracle saw him overcome a grave cancer diagnosis. And 2 years later, he emerged not just physically cured, but also fully rejuvenated in spirit. The biggest takeaway from Sheikh Rashid's turmoil was how important a strong support system could be. The family atmosphere around me picked me up in ways I couldn't imagine. If I wasn't married and didn't have my children, I would have voluntarily given up and refused treatment, he said. I feel that it's important for people not to be scared or worried to talk about their illness. It's more harmful if you keep it to yourself. Rashid is now committed to challenging and dismantling the stigma associated with mental health issues, particularly depression, aiming to foster a more understanding and supportive environment. Many people are ashamed to talk about depression, but I'm not at all, he said. If you need help, ask for it. The only way to get out of it is to talk about it. I didn't want to talk to a therapist because I thought, this person doesn't know me. What do I say? But once you start talking, you hear it out loud, and you realize you're not only benefiting yourself, but also other people who might be going through the same thing. People often try to hide what they're feeling to show more strength, but I think it's stronger to admit what problems you have and explain how you're working on them. With renewed vigor and determination, Rashid is passionately pursuing show-jumping glory. Remarkably, he reports feeling physically stronger than before his battle with cancer. This experience has also transformed his mindset, fortifying his mental resilience and focus. Cancer changes your outlook on life for sure. Before cancer, I was always looking too much into the future, and my vision for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, he explained. After cancer, I told myself, focus on this moment. Appreciate the moment you're in now. Stop chasing the result. Do the work, and let the result come to you. Rashid's dedication to his training and his passion for equestrian sports fueled his ambition to secure a spot with his wife as a show-jumping rider and the UAE Olympic team, alongside his beloved horses in the Summer Olympics, which will be held in Paris this year. Rashid only beat cancer and depression, not because he was wealthy or had the best medical treatments, but because he didn't give up on what brought him the most joy: family and show jumping. Most people believe money is enough to make you happy, but a billionaire sing otherwise. You could have it all, but if you don't have those who truly and genuinely care for you, you're way worse than a poor man who has all the love he needs. What are your thoughts about this story?